Well, hello there, and welcome to the Old Republic podcast. Today we are joined by a very special guest. We wanted to have someone on talk a little bit about, just one of kind of the brighter sides of our fandom. Is everyone kind of coming together, helping each other out, and this is a great resource for that. So, welcome to the podcast, 501st Help. How are you doing today?
Hi there. Thanks for having me. Doing very well today and happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you so much for coming on. Cassia introduced me to your page a while ago, and I have to say it's been a really great resource. Especially a lot of us kind of came into like this Star Wars Instagram kind of family kind of thing at the beginning part of 2020 when we were all starting to figure out what we needed to do with our times and stay sane a little bit. And your Instagram page has been a really great resource for that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how the page got created, and kind of what the goal of the page is.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the kind words. First of all, I really appreciate it. Initially, we started the page. It was myself and my friend Jordan. He's the owner of Star Wars Parody 501st. It's a very popular page. And another individual, Angus. He's at angus.sloan. Jordan approached us and decided he wanted to get people together and work on a page that we could bring together the idea of loving Star Wars and mental health awareness and kind of combine them to be relatable through themed posts and stories and having open DMs to the public. That people could just kind of talk about what they were feeling on a day-to-day basis, whether it's an emergency or a crisis situation. That was the initial thought, and it's just sort of evolved into the posts. I do most of the posts, and I try to write from things that I'm going through in my life, things I have experienced, and things that I think can help others. Angus does a lot of the stories, and he's fantastic at finding quotes that really make you think and make you question things. And Jordan's sort of like our overseer now. He makes sure he's our Star Wars aficionado, so he has all the knowledge that way. We're a good group of passionate individuals who can share our previous mental health experiences in a positive, healthy way. And we want to help others not go down the same paths that we did, or maybe not made the same mistakes. We wanted to use our previous pain and experiences to lessen others and maybe help them make better choices.
That's really great. It's always good to have, kind of points of references. And if you can tie it into Star Wars and, bring it around and make it accessible for people, I think that that's really important. And that's really kind of a good way to get, conversations, about health and mental wellness and things like that, getting started. Cassia, how did you come across the 501st Help page?
A lot of Star Wars Instagram pages shared 501st Help when it first was created, and I thought it was doing a good service, and it's just been a helpful page for me and a lot of people. And I mean, it kind of reminds me of the book The Jedi Mind: Secrets from the Force for Balance and Peace by Amy Ratcliffe. Because I think, like, our society is becoming more aware that, like, mental health is a very important and underrated facet of our overall health. But I think, like, sometimes people need a lens to kind of, like, be able to see, a needle in a haystack, and I think, like, if people, like, love Star Wars or something, like, there's something they really love, like, being able to, like, kind of see mental health through that lens kind of helps them, like, kind of make sense of things a little bit more, which is why, I mean, I love stories, and I think, like, fiction, like, teaches a lot of good ways to live and kind of observe life and kind of give perspective. So I'm just a fan of the account and what it represents.
Much appreciated. Thank you. I agree with you. I think having a lens to put it through is very important. And something like Star Wars is through the movies, the shows, the books, the comics. There are so many different characters and examples of the positives of mental health and the negatives as well that we can see. Whether it's someone like Darth Maul, that we see his terrible path that he goes through and he's very negative the whole time. But we can also see someone like Ahsoka who has faced so much negativity but still has positive to her and is able to stay strong even though she struggles at certain points. There's a character that anyone can relate to almost any situation, I find.
Yeah. I mean, almost like the Force, I almost think it's like an allegory for like balance, you know, and perspective and awareness.
Absolutely, I agree with you there.
Yeah, definitely. So to tie it back into Star Wars a little bit, then, so like you said, you can see a lot of yourself in the different characters and the different situations. Is there a certain Star Wars character or a certain kind of Star Wars story or theme that you find most interesting or most pertinent to yourself, especially I guess in the in the lens of the last couple of years?
Yeah, definitely. For myself personally, I would find the balance of the Force has always been something that I found relatable and very intriguing because it's the idea that there's Jedi and Sith, that there's light and dark. There will always be the two. There can't be too much of one without the other, or else the one will crumble. So I found personally with my own experiences, over the last couple of years, I've had some very aggressive downs and some very wonderful highs. So I've learned to kind of take a step back, take a deep breath, and accept the good and the bad that's happened because both will always be there. One can't exist without the other, just like in the Force. So it's finding the balance of the two and not letting one get a little too much more than the other. And that can sound weird because it sounds a little bit like promoting negativity, but we can't deny it at the same time because if we just pretend that it's not there, it will overtake us before we know it.
That reminds me of Inside Out, the Pixar film.
Yes,
And Pixar, like, what I loved about that film is that it's telling children, basically everyone, that it's okay to be sad. You know, like, you can't, like, be without sadness. And, like, in some ways, like, negative emotions like sadness or anger, like, they do have their time and place because if you never kind of experience anger, sometimes you don't stand up for yourself, or if you don't, like, experience sadness, in its proper time and place, like, you kind of don't reflect, like, you kind of don't realize, like, maybe what you want, and like, reflection is good. It gives you perspective.
absolutely. It's a lot of people I find struggle with being able to accept the past for what it is because we always wish there was something else we could do or we should have done something differently. But at the end of the day, all we can do is focus on what we're doing today and what we're going to do tomorrow. Accepting the past for the good and the bad takes a lot of effort and time to get used to, but it's very beneficial for living a positive lifestyle, I find.
That's something, like, I struggle with, and it's hilarious because, like, the whole point of, like, Star Wars is, like, being present. Like, you're not focusing on the past, you're not focusing on the future, you're just being where you are right now. But, like, I don't know, like, it's kind of like something I have to learn in my own life is to not hyperfixate on, like, oh, I should have changed this, I should have not said this, and not worrying about, like, oh, what am I gonna do in the future, or what if this happens, because, like, all we can do is live in the present, to the best of our ability. We cannot change the past, but if we are so kind of, like, blinded by, like, trying to make something happen in the future, like, sometimes it has the opposite effect.
The way you're saying like that is exactly I'm thinking of Anakin Skywalker immediately. Though he was so like in Attack of the Clones when he unfortunately massacres the Sand People. He's so focused on the past and the hurt that all the negative that he's been taking in the past that has been taken from him. And then fast forward into Revenge of the Sith, where he can partially see the future and he thinks he knows what will happen, and he tries so hard to change what hasn't happened yet that the worst case scenario ends up happening. It's a movie sense, so we kind of see the outside perspective, but for him, if he had just lived in the moment, things might have not turned out the way they did.
Yeah, definitely. And Star Wars in particular does a really great job of kind of illustrating kind of this atonement and redemption and forgiveness arcs for our characters, which I think are really good lessons we can take into, our own lives on a day-to-day basis. And then, as you stretch out the, how you see yourself over the course of a lot of years. So yeah, definitely some really good lessons I think can be learned from these films.
Absolutely. I find the Clone Wars shows, especially, there's so many different arcs and different characters that go through different emotional stories that you can always find something to be relatable and to learn from.
Absolutely. So why don't we take a little look here at your at the Instagram page. So it looks like you guys got this thing started up kind of the tail end of January of 2020. Is that right?
Yeah, it was January 30th, if I remember right, was our first post.
Okay, yeah. So that was kind of in the first kind of murmurings of what we were going to be living with, from then until now. So the coronavirus coming in. So how did the status of this virus on the world, how did that change what you wanted to do with the page? Or did it change it at all, really? Or did you feel a need to kind of not necessarily change direction, but kind of maybe the like the direction of the way that the posts were going? Or did it stay pretty much true to how you envisioned it on January 30th versus, I don't know, like that first week of March when everything started to shut down and turn into what it's still is, unfortunately?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we're still living in the world. No one knew that we were still going to be in this state when we started back in March there. I can't say that the direction changed per se, but we definitely started paying more attention to the types of posts we were doing. They needed to be more relatable to what people were going through, because we had our followers are anywhere from 12 to 50 years old, from what I can tell. So there are many different things that like kids were missing out on learning and socializing in schools. Adults were missing out on socializing at work. Everyone was being put into their own little bubbles, that we had to start focusing a lot more on the individual conversations with people, because there were so many different issues and problems that people were coming to us with that are completely valid in their own rights, but we really needed to put more focus on the one-on-one conversations. I found a lot of people, because they were stuck at home, and the more adult side of people, there was a lot of abuse of alcohol and drugs, because there frankly was not a lot of better things to do. So a lot of people were coming to us with that. Also food abuse, pardon me. A lot of people were starting to gain a lot of weight as well. So really working on the one-on-one conversations.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I can, definitely identify with some of that, because, when all this stuff started to happen and you just kind of, I always called it as just like a sense of like being rudderless. Like you didn't really have a direction, because like you said, you weren't going to school, you weren't going to work. You were just kind of, sitting around thinking about what was going on, and, trying to keep some sense of sanity. So finding like some sort of life balance, I think, was really hard, especially since we didn't know how long it was going to be going for. Obviously, it's still ongoing, but, we didn't know if it was going to be a 2-week thing or a 2-year thing, which is what it is right now. So you kind of lost a sense of, kind of time and purpose there, at least for a while. At least that's kind of how I felt about it. So yeah, I think that, kind of go into that one-on-one, because everyone's situation was a little bit different.
Yeah, there was so many different situations that were brought up to us that, as non-professionals, I'm also 29 years old, and I've had a very adventurous lifestyle. So I've been through many experiences, so I could relate to many of them that were coming to me, and not give them answers, but give them my experiences and tell them what I did, what I didn't do, and how they might be able to work through it. Being stuck at home, a lot of people, I noticed personally, self-harm, anxiety, and depression were all definitely going up on almost a global scale.
Definitely easy to, see why, but that's, I think, why it's so important to have, open lines of communication and be able to talk to people. And, especially, like I'd said before, if you can tie it back into some sort of like fandom or some sort of general interest that you have. Obviously, here we're Star Wars and Knights of the Old Republic podcast. Your page deals within Star Wars itself as well, but any kind of fandoms or interest, if there was a good way to tie that in to your own mental health and mental well-being, even if it's just talking. I know that kind of early on, one of the big things were having like Zoom happy hours and get-togethers and playing board games over Zoom and stuff like that, just to maintain those connections and just be able to talk about things as we're kind of put into isolation. So
Yeah, people definitely they got very creative with how they were able to communicate with each other and able to keep a positive mental attitude towards other people, because being alone for an extended period of time can kind of dull your social skills. So I was happy to see these Zoom parties and meetings that people are having. Everyone was still putting a lot of effort into being social and to having positive mental health, instead of just kind of shutting down and going, well, we'll wait for the world to turn back on. Thankfully, something like Star Wars is able to bring people together, that we can have shared movie parties. There are 9 movies, all the series. It could take plenty of time watching them together.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so grateful that the podcast, at the time it was called the Ebon Hawk podcast. We've since kind of rebranded as the Old Republic podcast, but I don't know, like, I think, like, the podcast, like, and just, like, the greater, like, Star Wars community, just, like, it was cool to witness people kind of just, like, being creative and being social, like, kind of during, like, a really hard time, Corona, kind of digging down and, like, kind of people loving what they love and all that. And we did talk with Jenny Marie from Jenny Marie Studio in episode 95, and we definitely talked about the power of fandom, kind of coupled with like positive mental health practices to kind of like that really help people kind of find joy, in kind of a tough spot.
Oh, absolutely. I find there's certain things can trigger certain people in happy ways. For me personally, when my anxiety is getting really bad, or I feel like I'm going to have a panic attack, I know I will go to A New Hope episode 4, and I will just put on the trench run from start to finish. And by the end of it, I've done my breathing exercises. I enjoyed my favorite scene, and I know I'll feel better.
no, I think it's great to have kind of those touch points, things that give you some sense of nostalgia or things that tie you back. I know Star Wars, for a lot of people, is a memory they have, like growing up watching with their parents or siblings or cousins or friends growing up. So yeah, if you can throw on the trench run and it takes you kind of back to those feelings, I think that's a good place to be, especially when times are a bit strenuous, to say the least.
Absolutely. As we're all big fans of Star Wars, so we all have, it's kind of like a happy place for us. So with everything that's happening in the real world, whether it's negative, bad, good, all of it, we can always fall back to Star Wars, and we know that it's going to make us feel something good, whether it's a memory or something new, because our true love for it.
Yeah. I mean, Star Wars is about hope. It kind of leaves people with a good feeling. And it's kind of like about light overcoming darkness. And I think no matter, like, if you're looking at the prequel trilogy, the original trilogy, the sequel trilogies, Clone Wars, Rebels, all the different branches of Star Wars, like, it's all kind of about light overcoming darkness and hope. But do you ever find that there's kind of some characters that a lot of people kind of gravitate towards, or is it kind of like unique, kind of depending upon the individual?
I think it's mostly on the individual. There are certain main characters like Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader who personify the good and the bad of their trilogies. But then you can get down into the smaller parts of it and think of someone like from Rebels, Ezra Bridger. He's one of my favorite characters. And throughout his story of being an immature child and then turning into an adult Jedi who makes the sacrifice at the end, some people can relate to that through what they're going to because they're having the ups and downs of their life. But I do find most people, they do gravitate to the more mainstream characters because they're the ones we know and they're the ones that we've seen go through all their goods and the bads for the most amount of time.
Yeah, that makes sense. We have 9 films now, plus Solo and Rogue One and the Clone Wars films and all of the TV shows. But yeah, I mean, you're spending the bulk of the time with those, especially depending on when you came into the fandom. So yeah, so your Luke's and Darth Vader's and R2 and C-3PO, Princess Leia. Those are the ones that are going to, I guess, have the most sort of character growth. So you'll see them, at different parts of their own story and are able to kind of tie those into, whatever you happen to be going on in your own life at this time.
Yeah, I find a lot of people, it's what's going on. Their life sometimes does dictate kind of what character they relate to because I've had experiences, yeah, of people who they're in a very dark place. They're feeling very negative and not sure what to do. And they relate more to Darth Maul when he was found on the, I forget the name of the planet where Savage found him.
Was it
And then
Raxus?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So some people, when they're in that very negative, dark mindset, they'll relate closer to him when he was in that state. But then there's others who, once they work past their problems and they realize that they've got to a solution and they accept their past, they kind of relate more to Ben Kenobi when he's on Tatooine, who's gone through all of his struggles and accepted his fate and where he is now at the time.
Yeah. This year, I was also just kind of like talking with friends like that I met in the Star Wars Instagram community, like about other films like Justice League, like Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I think a lot of people are kind of feeling a bit like rudderless, kind of like a bit stuck in place. And I was talking to one of my friends about how, like, in Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Flash, you kind of see he kind of represents like a kind of young adult who is kind of just running in every direction, not really kind of like deciding on a path, like kind of not moving forward because he's just kind of running in circles. But at the end, he has to use his powers to kind of turn back time and do something he's never done. And you kind of see him like say like I've got to go way faster than the speed of light, and you kind of see him start to run, and he says like he kind of makes peace with like his past, and he says make your own future, make your own past, it's all right now. He's being present, and you kind of see as he's running forward there is literally no path in front of him, but by the act of him moving forward and kind of just like kind of embracing like his potential and kind of finally deciding what he needs to do, if you look at his feet, like it's the act of him moving forward that creates that path. And I think like just kind of being like tapped into good movies, and Star Wars, like you can like definitely like relate a lot of life to the stories you see on screen. And that's kind of the point of movies, is they teach you how to live and how to be a good person, have a good life, be selfless rather than selfish.
Absolutely, I agree with you. It's Star Wars specifically. I think the living the way the Jedi do is a great way to be. Not so much the emotionless part, but
Yeah.
the detachment of things, not accepting the way things go, meditating and living in the moment. The Sith have their points as well with they embrace their emotions instead of trying to hide them away. They're clearly more aggressive about it, which isn't good, but I do admire them a little bit for embracing their emotions with such ferocity and really expressing who they are the way they are. They're not exactly good people, but
Yeah.
I really like the Flash metaphor that you just used because he went through the entire process of accepting his past, living in the moment, and setting up the future, all in as the fastest man on the planet. He had almost infinite time to think of that because he's so fast. But as normal people, we go through that process in a day, a week, a month. So it's a really good metaphor, but it compresses the human experience a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I definitely like what you were saying, like, there's kind of like lessons to learn from the Jedi and Sith characters. I kind of hope in the future, like, I don't really think like in the current canon that like gray Jedi exist, but I mean there is kind of like Ahsoka and Qui-Gon who are kind of like, I guess, kind of more like Jedi. They're more like what the Jedi should be, even though like they're not like the typical Jedi. Like it would be kind of cool to see like if Jedi are able to ever like kind of have attachments and emotions, and kind of just see like what a balanced, like emotionally healthy Jedi would look like.
Myself, I've always been curious on what if the Jedi were more open about that, if they had allowed Anakin to have Padme as a wife and to have Luke and Leia as children. We would have a completely different story, and he would have been the most powerful Jedi ever, and he would have stayed that way instead of having such a dark path.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe there's a lesson to learn, and I don't know. I would love to see like what that would look like in fiction, and like I wonder how that would affect the audience if they would kind of like be able to see like kind of like how to kind of balance themselves a bit more, kind of like reflect like what they see in fiction. But it's interesting to think about. But you did mention meditation and a lot of stuff like that. Like, what are some ways that you think like people can cultivate positive mental health?
Oh, there are many, many different ways, and I would love to share all of them if we had all the time.
Yeah.
First and foremost, one of the best ones is physical exercise. Everyone's going to tell you that, but it is a proven way to improve, pardon me, the quality of your life and your mental health for physical, because it does release, it helps to release dopamine and react your dopamine receptors. And also serotonin, it helps produce as well, which is the feel good chemical that we have in our brains. For me, meditation is a big one. I use what I call the 5-point countdown is my favorite one that I use, whether it's just to feel more in the moment that I'm in or to help calm myself down when my anxiety is very high. What it is it's focusing on the five senses that we have, pardon me. So I'll take 3 deep breaths as best I can and look around the room and out loud say 5 things that I can see. And then take another couple deep breaths and I'll say 4 things that I can hear. Another few deep breaths, 3 things that I can smell, 2 things that I can touch, and 1 thing that I feel. And you take nice deep breaths and you don't have to rush through it. You take your time and go nice and slow. And by the time you're done and you get to 1, you're consciously just feeling better. And you're not really sure why until you go, I did my work, I did my countdown, and I feel better for it. It helps to diffuse our thoughts and the emotions that we're feeling when they're a little out of control and we're not quite feeling like ourselves. There's also even just visualizing and grounding techniques. A big part for me when meditating is taking my socks off and having my feet planted on the floor firmly, or sitting with my bum on the floor and a strong straight back focusing on posture and putting effort into those little things really helps getting into a meditative state as well, I find. Proper sleep patterns is a big thing, proper diet, and is also very helpful for it. And planning the future can sound scary, but it does help with a positive lifestyle as well, because if you're thinking about your future in the present, you can help frame what it's going to be instead of thinking of how things were or what you should have done. We need to live in the now and look forward.
Those are really good tips and good starting points to, I think, to, kind of break through some of the walls and barriers we kind of set ourselves up for, not, taking care of our mental health, just taking, like you said, doing like a breathing exercise or some meditation, just for a couple of minutes today to kind of recenter yourself and, help you figure out, what your purpose is for the day instead of just kind of, going through the motions, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, and a great way to do that, I find, is like you said, a lot of people have been feeling rudderless over the last 18 months or so. A lot of people wake up going, what do I do today? What am I going to do? What can I do? I've learned to start by making your bed. Get up and make the conscious choice to fold your sheets properly, fluff your pillows, make your bed properly. And that's starting your day with a simple task that you can achieve well, you can do it well, and you can feel good about it all throughout your entire day.
Yeah. Just kind of like finding ways to take positive action. Usually, even if they're like the quote unquote small things, they make a big difference. And it's usually like the small things that I think help me get ahead in life the most.
Oh, a lot of people focus on the big stuff where it's, am I going to get that raise at work, or I need to get a mark on a test to pass this class? And it seems like such a giant problem. But if we tackle the little stuff at the same time, where make your bed, have a good meal, read a book when you feel like it, all those little things stack up on top of each other and start becoming something positive and big that can help you tackle that big problem that you have. You feel better going into that problem.
Yeah. And like, none of us are professionals, but that doesn't mean like we can't like help each other in this fandom or like the one-on-one and kind of like talking about positive like mental health strategies and kind of just like listening to each other and like having empathy, and giving each other advice. And it's been a great thing. And sometimes like It's been a long, 18 months, going on 74 years. No, just kidding. It just feels like Corona's going forever, but I'm like, it's been a good, kind of way to talk to other people kind of going through the same thing, like talking about things we love. And I definitely talk to a counselor as well, and that's been very helpful, and I think there's always people you can talk to, and that's why I kind of just wanted to highlight what you guys were doing on the podcast, is like there's always someone to listen, like no matter how hard things are, like there's ways to move forward.
Absolutely. That is the number one goal of our page, is to let everyone know that no matter how horrible you feel, how dark of a place you feel that you're in, you are not alone. There is someone reaching a hand out for you. All you need to do is grab it. Send us a comment, send us a DM, however you want to reach out, and we will respond as soon as we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, so, Alex, if any of our listeners out there, if they want to get in touch with you or, visit the Instagram page, where do they go and do that? What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So the best way, the main page is at 501st, the help. If you want to speak to me directly, my tag is at Alex of 501st Help. If you want to speak with me directly, you can send a message there and I will get it personally. Through the main page, I do most of the DMing as well, so I will get to it there. I would like to promote at Star Wars Parody underscore 501st. That's Jordan's page. He is the person who started this. He was the one who invited us to the page. So I wouldn't be here talking to you about this if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, we're big fans of the whole team and everything you guys do, because it's helping people, fans all over the world, and it has a great impact.
I appreciate the kind words.
Well, Alex, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and coming on the podcast. I know Cassie and I both really appreciate it, and hopefully everyone listening out there, can take some stuff away from it and, follow along on the Instagram page. And, if you ever feel like reaching out and talking to someone about, whatever the, whatever it may be, definitely do that. We definitely recommend reaching out and, getting some advice, just an ear to listen to, or give you some help, and however we can do that. So
thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be on and be able to speak like this.
Yeah, to everyone listening out there, we hope you're doing well, and may the force be with you.